Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Greg Firman, market analyst here at TraderPlanet.com. And these are the market positions for March the 16th, 2010. Our first position for tonight is going to be in the Nasdaq 100 Composite Index, the continuous futures contracts. We can see that we have a crossover that's taken place here from VantagePoint about the middle of February. We've had a nice extension up here from the essentially we got the crossover here from VantagePoint at the 1790 mark. We're now currently sitting at about 1920, so a very good move here. Now, the first thing we want to do is identify our pivot support, 1867, 1899.54, and 1918.66. So with this trend very clearly identified by VantagePoint, we're going to be looking to get into buy positions using the predicted moving averages in combination with our other indicators from VantagePoint, specifically the predicted low for tomorrow. So with that said, we're going to go into our daily report here from VantagePoint. We're going to be looking at the predicted high and the predicted low. We can assess that the close at 1950 right here. This suggests that the market is still in a decent uptrend. I wouldn't say a strong uptrend. We definitely have room to extend lower. Now our move for tomorrow, 1907.01, we're going to be then looking for a move to 1929.70. We can see that the neural index is turned down after a number of positive days, which is fine. On this pullback, it allows us to get into a better position on our longs. So 1907.01 is our predicted low for the day. Now going back and looking at our three predicted moving averages, we have 1867 again, 1899, and 1918 with this close of 1950. So what we're going to be doing tomorrow is we're going to be using the predicted 8-day moving average from VantagePoint at 1899.54, or let's just say, to round that out, the 1900 mark to get into our buy position. I think the predicted low, it's going to extend a little lower than that tomorrow. So anywhere between 1907 and 1899 would be a good entry point, but I would prefer to focus around the 1902 area to get into a buy position, and then for an extension towards that 1929 mark. So we're looking for no less than a 20-point move for tomorrow on a slight pullback. So that in short is how we want to use the VantagePoint. We want to pre-identify these key levels and then look to get into those levels wait for the market to come to us, identify the critical levels, and then get in. So we can see that our 18-day predicted moving average from VantagePoint, a key area of support, 1867. I don't believe that the pullback will be that deep. So we're going to use, again, the 8-day predicted moving average as our entry point in conjunction, again, with that predicted low. Now, with that said, we're going to try and assess how deep this pullback is going to be. So we're going to put on a couple of indicators here, additional indicators from VantagePoint, specifically the predicted RSI and the predicted TSI, to see if we can narrow this down. We can see here that the predicted TSI from VantagePoint, of course, is heavily overbought, as is the predicted RSI. We can see it starting to extend lower. Because we're heavily overbought like this, does that mean that it can extend higher? I don't believe so. I believe it can extend higher. We're in a good, strong, the equities are very strong right now, particularly the US based equities. I believe they have room to extend. So we're going to stick with that with the buy position, and we're just going to allow the market to pull back a little bit so we can get into those buy positions. So again, that's our first position for tonight. Now our second position for tomorrow, we're going to be again looking at the equity market, specifically the S&P 500 E-mini. The E-mini has moved up aggressively higher over the essentially over the last month. We can see that we have this crossover from VantagePoint that took place at about the 1090 mark. We've extended all the way up into the 1150. Now again, we're extremely overbought here, but again, the US based equities, I believe, are undervalued in comparison to some of the other markets. So I like to stick with a buy position on the E-mini, much like the Nasdaq. Now there is a fairly high correlation between the E-mini and the Nasdaq, which I'll touch base on in a minute here. But for now, what we're going to be doing is looking at the S&P 500 E-mini. So we're going to go into our daily report here and see what we've got for predicted highs and predicted lows for tomorrow's trading day. Now again, we're looking at those predicted moving averages. We're also looking at the overbought, the oversold signals by using the predicted TSI and the predicted RSI. Now we've closed 1150.25. that is the first day that marks that we've had a slightly lower close. So for tomorrow we're looking at 1143.02 as the low, 1156.52 is the high. So 1143.02 is the predicted low for tomorrow. We're going to match that up again with our moving average, predicted moving averages. So for tomorrow I would like to actually focus on the 1139.85 area. Our stops are going to be below 1125. We're going to be looking for an extension towards VantagePoint's predicted high tomorrow. That's going to be in the 1156 area. Now what we're also going to do is just have a quick look here at the crossovers from VantagePoint in the short term to see if we have an indication that this is getting ready to pull back. We can see that we don't not even on the short term indicator from VantagePoint do we have a crossover to the downside yet. So this tells me that we are going to move higher after essentially a slight pullback. Now because we're doing two equity trades tomorrow on the major futures, specifically the E-mini S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, what we're going to do here is we're going to put these two up side by side and just see how strong this correlation actually is. Now putting these two charts up side by side, we can see that the crossover, we're running essentially about 100% correlation here. The Nasdaq and the S&P 500, we can see this crossover that took place to the downside back in the middle of January, took place on the Nasdaq 100 at pretty much exactly the same time. We then had the 3-day crossing over the predicted 8 and 18-day moving average from VantagePoint. Same thing happened here on the Nasdaq 100 as it did on the S&P 500. We can see now we're starting to level off a bit here on the predicted 3-day moving average from VantagePoint as we are on the Nasdaq 100 also. So I believe that both of these two major indices are going to pull back, and when they do, that simply allows us for a buying opportunity. But it's also very important to put the correlation up here that we want to be cautious of trading both of these at the same time. So I know we have lots of traders out there that trade the Nasdaq 100, but we also have equally as many traders that are trading the S&P 500 and the S&P 500 E-minis. So it's very important that, again, we don't trade both at the same time, but for individual traders looking at both of the major indices, I expect both to pull back somewhat, and when they do, we want to use that pullback to get into buy positions. So those are the market trades for March the 16th, 2010. And again, my name is Greg Firman, market analyst here at TraderPlanet.com.